Welcome into Smooth Operators with your hosts, Noah, Griggs, and Ben, going through the world of Formula One.
If you want to interact with the show today, you can tweet at us at Noah_Phillips, at Junior_McClurkin, and at TheGriggsB. It's time for the green flag, and it's lights out, and away we go.
Hello and welcome into Smooth Operators. It is episode 12. I can't believe we made it this far. I thought we would have got thrown off the air by now, but this will be our last episode of the summer before we reunite in the Bradley Basin studio. Griggs Blankenberg, Ben McClurkin, how are you guys doing?
Had a good weekend, so ready to get back in action, though. I'm ready to get back into the studio with you guys. Really looking forward to it, although I have had a lot of fun this summer.
Yeah, I've been having fun this summer. It's good. Just keep it going. One of the few shows that Weagle who was able to keep going over the summer. Grateful for that and doing well. I'm glad people are still tuning in, listening to us. We appreciate that. We're coming up on 1 year, gentlemen. I have it in my calendar. It's coming up soon, so we're going to have a SMOP 1 year anniversary party in the studio for when that hits, that milestone hits. But once again, for the last time, for the next month, or a little under a month, we're here to talk about a Formula One race that happened. So the Spa Grand Prix, so the Belgian Grand Prix happened today, and it's starting to sound like Groundhog Day. But folks, Max Verstappen did it again with a time of 1:22:30.450, secures 25 points, his 8th consecutive race. He ties Sebastian Vettel, and I can't remember who the other driver was, for the most consecutive race wins in F1 history. He has his home race next, Zandvoort, to try to secure the all-time most consecutive races won, 9 in a row. No one's ever done it. Looking to break that as Red Bull win their 13th race in a row, 12th in a row this season, passing McLaren for the most won in a single season consecutively. Second place, Sergio Perez, getting back into form a little bit. 18 points for him in second. And Charles Leclerc finishing...
Before we get into that, I would just
here we go.
Shout out to the script writers with Max Verstappen winning his 9th consecutive next week in his home race. Talk about a storybook finish for that record. Max Verstappen is going to win it. They're going to be throwing orange cans and orange streamers and orange everything and Red Bull color. It's going to be amazing. The Dutch national anthem will never have sounded so good. Shout out to those script writers.
And Noah's attempts to jinx anything, that's funny. But Charles Leclerc comes in. He was on the Max Verstappen experience today, so he finished third with 15 points, followed by Sir Lewis Hamilton in fourth, securing the fastest lap of the race on new medium tires at the end of the race, setting a 1:47.305. Fastest pit stop of the day was Ferrari. We've not said that in a long time. Ferrari with the fastest pit stop, the DHL fastest pit stop with a 2.19. And Max Verstappen is your driver of the day. Rest of the point scorers, Fernando Alonso in 5th with 10. Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, only racers this year to score points in every single race. George Russell in 6th with 8 points for Mercedes. Lando Norris securing 6 points in 7th place for McLaren. Esteban Ocon, have a good weekend, Esteban Ocon for Alpine. 4 points for him, followed by his teammate Pierre Gasly in the sprint race, finishing third in that. Lance Stroll in at 9th, securing 2 points for Aston Martin. And rounding out the rest of the point scorers is Yuki Tsunoda of AlphaTauri, scoring 1 point. That jumps them from 2 to 3. So they just they scored half their season points this year already. So hats off to Yuki and the team at AlphaTauri for that one.
Yeah, this season does not look good for AlphaTauri, but yeah, I just want to say congrats to Max for giving us a good win in half of his home country, because his mother is Belgian and his dad is Dutch.
And he was born in Belgium.
Yes, and he was born in Belgium. So shout out to him for getting 2 of his nationalities, or getting 1 of the 2 nationalities this season knocked out. I will say, talking points, Lando's race. From McLaren, we saw a lot of pace on Saturday, especially during the sprint shootout, and then especially during the sprint as well. And obviously things didn't go to plan for Oscar Piastri, with him not only finishing outside of the points, but finishing out of the race with a DNF caused by a little collision with Carlos Sainz at the beginning, where he was fighting for a chance at a podium position. But Lando drove really well, despite some of his apparent issues with the car. I believe that they had said at one point it was a steering issue, but then Lando corrected that and just said, no, we were slow. But yeah, Lando still drove well despite his issues with the vehicle. So good on him.
One thing I noticed too with them, it's not at all the case what happened the last couple races with McLaren, just the ability for them to get those tires up and going. All weekend, they talked about at the start of the race. This is the first, like, almost all dry session. We had that little 10-minute span in there, but just the McLaren could not seem to get any kind of the dry tires working this weekend, even after that. And then going back to what you're talking about, Carlos Sainz and Oscar Piastri. I mean, Piastri finished second in the sprint. And just, I'm surprised, honestly, how Sainz kept going as long as he did. I thought he was coming in for a pit stop on, I believe, like lap 1. He came back in, nothing really happened of it. So that's really what I took from that as well. And then, yeah, just the ability of Max again, starts P6, P1 by lap 13. Shout out, I think it was Griffin Hall in our F1 Auburn group me. Shout out to him for that one. He basically got that one right on the nose, even though he won't admit it. But yeah, I mean, good race for Charles Leclerc. Now 9 podiums, now 9 pole positions in a row without a win. So congrats to Charles Leclerc on that. Continuing to be the pole king.
It's coming. It's coming. Don't worry.
I believe he now has the worst pole to win ratio in F1 history. I believe it's 20 poles to 4 wins, I believe.
If it is, that's a complete media fabrication. It doesn't matter how many times you start on pole, it's the amount of times you win, and the Ferrari is going to continue to win, hopefully at some point in the future. They're not doing it right now, but we can get back on top. I do love Charles Leclerc's quote. The team has done an amazing job to bring updates ahead of the schedule and let us take steps forward faster than we thought we would, which means that we haven't reached the full potential of that car. So we really do have an opportunity to finish strong and finish on the podium at the end of the season. I also know I'm saying we, but, you know, that happens sometimes. That happens sometimes.
It do be happening.
And I've just pulled up the stat. David Coulthard is second place with only 2 out of 12 pole positions as wins, but Charles Leclerc, worst pole to win percentages, 18 pole positions with 5 wins. So just barely beating our boy DC, one of the original Red Bull drivers. But yeah, like, dude, that's just a brutal stat. It's hard. That's hard to walk away from. But you know, I think if Leclerc gets into a race-winning outfit, maybe not a race-winning car, but a race-winning team, he can do things, and he needs the support around him. And what we've seen is right now this season, obviously, it's going to be Max Verstappen. It's the best driver in the best car, but later on, Leclerc could be the best driver in the best car. You know, like, I'm definitely not ruling him out of a world championship. I think we would all love to see it too.
And just
for sure.
I mean, it's good to have a little bit of stuff there. Also saw a sad stat today. It is now mathematically impossible for Logan Sargent to win the World Drivers' Championship this year. So, a moment of silence for our American brother in arms. Unlike every other thing that's ever happened, someone has beaten America.
The oldest
so far.
and greatest country.
Amen.
Oldest.
Yeah, it is the oldest.
You wouldn't get it, Ben. You're not online. You're not online enough, Ben, to get that one.
I love our.
You're not clinically online.
I love misinformation, man. That's so fun. While we're at it, we can talk about some cost cap rumors if y'all would like to get into that now. While we're doing some speculation, some guessing.
We don't guess with our award-winning journalism, Ben.
What do y'all think, Mr. Award Winner and Mr. Award Winner, down here, up here. I don't know how it's going to look on the display. But what do you guys think? I think Griggs would be there. But what do you guys think of the allegations that Red Bull, Mercedes, and I believe either Williams or Haas have had a cost cap breach in 2022 and also in 2023?
Well, listen, Ben.
I mean,
all great teams know you occasionally have to cheat to win. All right? And with the new cost cap, they didn't know how bad it was going to be when they were going into it. They understand it now, and they're going to attempt to keep it under budget in 2024 and beyond. But for 2022, they didn't understand how big of a deal it was going to be. We saw it with Red Bull buying extra fruits at the concessions. That went into their cost cap. And they just have to learn to not be a cheater on that. I think we should forgive them and let the whole thing slide underneath.
Interesting. I personally, Griggs, before you state your thoughts, I want to interject something here. I personally agree with you. I think it'd be really interesting to see a cost cap free Formula One.
yeah, it's called Mercedes from 2014 to whenever.
And I mean, every entertaining season of Formula One has not been under strict cost cap regulation, except for 2021. I mean, that's just how it is. In the cost cap era, it's been in favor of the teams who have more money still, and in fact, it's increased that disparity because the other teams can't spend the money to catch up. So, like, if you're under the cost cap, it affects you more because you're not spending it more efficiently. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Here's my thing. I mean, I don't know what is for this, but I feel like Red Bull would be very just dotting their I's and crossing off their T's on this one because they don't want another thing happen. They got a minor penalty, so I doubt Red Bull's gonna be involved in this. I heard the thing about Mercedes in one originally. I heard about Mercedes and one other team, but I didn't remember hearing about Red Bull because I remember seeing someone was like, "Oh, how the tables have turned." Insert Michael Scott quote here. Just on like how they used to cry about Verstappen last year. Now it's happening to them. Honestly, I don't think $1 million for an F1 car really didn't make too much of a difference for Red Bull. I mean, Adrian Newey's a wizard. He can do whatever he wants, and it still comes out positive. But I mean, it would be interesting to see if, what if a team like McLaren were over budget when Zach Brown was writing letters to Mohammed bin Salman about the F1 stuff, FIA, and just like this is not good for the sport when in fact it happens to his team. So it's gonna be interesting to see the reaction if this does come to fruition. I think the biggest winner in that would be Christian Horner because then he can take a victory lap over everyone that doubted him and stuff. But I mean, it would be interesting to see if that happens, especially if it happens to like a Red Bull or Aston Martin again. What kind of penalty they would get since they were two people who were within previously, yeah. Even though Aston Martin's was a little bit different, it was like a accounting error or something like that.
Yeah, it was. Their reports were late coming in, so they were fined a few grand. But here's another thing too, and this is something interesting. Is it possible that Mercedes saw the fine given out to Red Bull and were like, "I'll take some of that," because if you think about it, the fines don't actually come out of their cost cap. So when Red Bull got fined, it came out of Red Bull's expenditures that were unrelated to the Formula One cost cap. So Red Bull itself paid for it. And I mean, with a huge organization like Mercedes, they could totally foot the bill of like $10 or $12 million if it got them a winning F1 season, because that gives you more money in the long run and even at the end of the season in the short run. So you can just outspend the cost cap basically. But they promise sporting penalties the next time, so like race wins getting taken away, and
I mean that wouldn't affect anyone but Red Bull this year, but
yeah, even a championship being removed if you win the championship. But I mean, those teams that are behind, what do they have to lose?
Do y'all really think the FIA though would actually follow through with the sporting stuff and not just the fines? Like, I would be
That's the
very
thing.
surprised if a team didn't test the waters or continue to test the waters.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing now. You set the precedent with Red Bull, so anything at or around that, they're going to have to do the same thing. But if we're talking like they're increasing it by like 10%, which I think the cost cap this year was 180 million US dollars or something around that. So if you get 18 more million, that's a little bit more than a little catering mishap. So 18 million you could definitely see in a development of a car. So
Yeah.
way more than 1 million could. So that'd be interesting to see what they do there, because I think if it happens to anyone else but Red Bull, I think they're going to get the same penalty now because they've already established what their kind of parameters are surrounding that. So they'll get the fine, they'll get the 10% deduction in aero testing, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So
And one thing that's interesting too. I'm sorry, Noah.
go ahead.
One thing that's interesting too is Red Bull has almost gotten around the aero testing by making packaging changes that they don't test. So the new Red Bull side pod upgrade, that was never run in a CFD or a wind tunnel.
Hmm.
That was
That's
just
interesting.
hand drawn and then executed in CAD, which is a computer aided design software, and then put on the car.
That just shows you how much more of a wizard Adrian Newey is.
Yeah. If
He's
you have
just like,
that level of guy at any position, and his knowledge of the rules too is something that's helped him out for a long time. But like if you can do that, you can skirt some of those aero penalties. So why wouldn't the other teams, join in on the fun? Because they've seen that Red Bull has been successful despite their penalties, because they found ways around some of the penalties. And of course, like at the start of the season, I definitely felt like it was way too strict because of the 10% error testing. But obviously, I underestimated Adrian Newey's abilities. And also, I underestimated Red Bull's abilities to keep consistent upgrades and performance improvements on their car. So
I mean,
I
it's
think,
true. I mean, mhm.
yeah, I'm
I
done.
mean, Red Bull had like I know Red Bull was one of the last couple teams to implement upgrades. I mean, if the saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I mean, all they did was the new side pod thing. But other than that, I mean, just the consistency they've been able to have. Like, I don't think this could happen to a team like, no offense to no, but I don't think a team like Ferrari, it's kind of just not the greatest cohesiveness, if that makes sense, where everyone knows, like, okay, we're running a tighter ship this season. We have to make sure we do everything correctly because we have less room to test and try things out. So we just have to just make sure everything's going according to plan. And I don't think that could happen with many other teams. I'd probably say it'd only be Red Bull and probably Mercedes who could do it effectively with that ban, along with that aero time, just because the stability of those organizations.
I mean, that sounds about right to me. Just, you got to have faith in Ferrari. If some of the old guys were still there, some of the old guard, we might be able to do it. If we had
They
the
need more
people
British
that built,
people.
if we had the people that built our endurance cars, we could probably do pretty well. Because they've been doing pretty
That's
well.
the thing. That's the thing you kind of do. But an F1 team is the F1 team is kind of different. What I've noticed, and this is not my observation, it was Martin Brundle's actually. He said the British teams, that includes Red Bull, Mercedes, to an extent, and McLaren, which is technically not British. Bruce McLaren is from New Zealand, but let's not get into that. Any of the British factory teams that have been successful always do it because they execute a higher level of precision over the finer characteristics of the car. So even if the car is not as fast, let's say like this year's McLaren, it's not that fast in certain areas, but what they've found is one really good area that they just push, and they get that to perfection, and then they move on to the next thing. Kind of the same with the Williams. The Williams is good in a straight line. That's its characteristic.
Problem is there's at least like over 10, 15 turns every race.
Yeah, that's the thing. And so at Monza, I mean, Logan Sargent ran as high as 6th today. Strategy calls kind of messed him up. And, you know, Alex Albon always brings it home somehow. But yeah, what you see with that is the ability to extract one characteristic really well. And the Red Bull has so many characteristics that it naturally does well. So they can just focus on one thing and just get it dialed down to the smallest degree of perfection. And I mean, air is not going to hurt them at all because they're perfecting something that's already good. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Very true indeed. All right, after that speculationing that we've been doing along with our spa recap, it is time for something we've talked about for a while. We've talked about it ever, but we've never given a full segment to it. So we called up our ratings guy, Noah. He's got some information on does this Red Bull dominance really have an effect on the ratings? He's got some stats from the past seasons along with this season's races. It's a little bit weird. They release them around every 3, 4, 5 weeks, every month from the past weeks, and then along with other series like NASCAR, IndyCar, I believe he has some stuff for it. So Noah, what do you got for us?
Well, I'm going to start this one off with the crown jewel of the Formula One season, that being Monaco. Monaco was what, a month ago, probably at this point, along with the trifecta of the great NASCAR Coca-Cola 600 and, of course, the Indy 500. And if this is anything to go by, it did pretty well. This one was ranked second at Monaco, including – actually, I'll tell you the numbers first. The F1 Monaco Grand Prix averaged a 1.0 rating and 1.79 million viewers on ABC, the largest audience ever for the race and third largest of any F1 race, including tape-delayed races. It ranks second at Monaco and fourth overall. The 3 largest live F1 audiences on record, and 5 of the top 6 have come in the past 2 seasons, which Sunday's race trailing the 2 Miami Grand Prix, 2.58 and 1.96 million. All of these figures are coming from sportsmediawatch.com. And the actual win by Max Verstappen, part of that big 8 wins in a row included now, peaked 1.9 from 10:15 to 10:30 a.m. So these people aren't necessarily seeing Max Verstappen start to go way off and then turn off the camera or turn off the TV. They're at the very least staying through a good chunk of the race. Obviously, right there, 10:30. That's kind of a time when people start to go out and do something on their Sunday. Go out, get lunch, try to beat the church crowd.
Or be the church crowd.
Or be the church crowd. But, let's see here. Qualifying the previous day actually was a plus 3% from last year with a 0.46 and 818,000. And overall, it did go down, or excuse me, it went up 12% in total from last year on ESPN. So the switch to ABC probably did help it. Couple this with the same day, the NASCAR Coca-Cola 600, one of its crown jewel events, 3.4 million viewers on Fox. One of the largest for a Monday Cup Series race, because you remember it rained that day.
Yes.
And ended up
I do remember that day. It was really rainy here.
And NASCAR drivers don't like the rain for some reason.
Well,
I was saying no, it was really rainy here that day. So I understand why it was canceled. It was rainy that day.
It was rainy. I was mad because I was going to watch now. I was going to sit down, watch it, and started raining. This also, I'll go ahead and move into Austria, one of the few races I got for this, again, coming by way of Sports Media Watch. 0.6 rating and 1.09 million viewers on ESPN. This was the largest audience ever for the race. Max Verstappen's win peaked with 1.21 million and increased 2% from last year, which was, of course, 1.07 million. The F1 season is now averaging $1.26 million on the ESPN family of networks, up from the last year's average at this point of $1.21 million. So, folks, we're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
F1 has done a fantastic job on the ESPN family of networks. I really wish I could have found the actual market data for it, like the Tennessee market, like the Charlotte market, like all those markets. But overall, not only F1, but racing as a whole is up on the TV TV ratings, as the Chicago Street Race was NBC's most watched NASCAR race in 6 years. So I'm telling you right now that F1 needs to go to Chicago. I'm telling you right now, it needs to happen.
Why not just go to Detroit?
No,
dude. I think they need to go to North
Detroit.
Wilkesboro.
that is what they should do. But obviously,
That
they
is
can't
one
do
of
that.
the circuits of all time.
One of these circuits of all time, yes.
One of the circuits ever.
But the
That-
NASCAR community is going to get mad that F1, that all these NASCAR races are coming to North Carolina again, and then we're going to have to go back to Texas, for the All-Star race, which is
No,
not what
we're
I
not
know you
doing
want
that.
to see.
We're not doing
I
that.
love Texas. I love Texas.
But here's the thing I have to say about this. I mean, it's kind of what
kind of like what Ben was
not what
saying.
we thought, but still, just the way that the
Cut out a
F1
little
tracks
bit there,
was able
Briggs.
to just, even though people are not tuning in,
And he keeps cutting out.
is my mic cutting out?
Yeah. And your video,
Your
too.
video feed is going away.
My Wi-Fi is terrible. I apologize. But we won't have that problem back in the studio. But what I was saying was just the dominance of Max isn't affecting the ratings as much as we thought it was. People are still tuning in. You could see a big on the races some too. I mean, look at the timing sometimes here in America, along with the network it's on. I mean, we don't have the numbers yet, but when the race was 2 weekends ago, what was last week? It was Spa and then Hungary. Hungary was on ESPN2. The Open was on at the same time for golf. So I thought that would have had a little bit of correlation effect in America, people tuning in to watch golf instead. But then these races that are getting put on ABC, it's mainly the American races getting put on ABC, along with Monaco. So that makes sense. I'm interested to see what the Las Vegas is going to do in terms of numbers, since, as y'all remember, it will be a Saturday night race. So
It's going to do crazy numbers. And I don't think there's no NFL games scheduled. What's the date? November 22nd for Vegas.
I'll find it.
It's
I'll
late.
find it.
It's late during
November-
fall sports season.
It's November 25th. No.
November 18th. And
November.
folks, we have an Auburn football home game that day versus New Mexico State.
Nobody's going to be watching that. I love you, Hugh Freeze, but nobody
here's
is
the
going
thing,
to
though.
be watching that.
That's going to be a beatdown.
Here's the
Wait,
thing.
no,
Technically.
it's a Sunday night race.
No, it's not.
Yeah. Oh, I meant at the venue.
Oh, yeah.
What? What's happening?
It's Saturday at the venue. It's 1 a.m. It'll be midnight on Central Time Zone, so that means it will be, I believe, 10 p.m. Pacific time. So it will still
Wait,
technically be a
the race
Saturday
starts
race.
at-
So
The race starts at 11 p.m. Mountain Time. That is
Yes.
awesome.
Yes.
That is so cool.
oh wait, no, sorry, it would be 11 p.m. Mountain Time. So it will
So
be
they
1
will- they
a.m.
will
after an
race-
Auburn football home game.
They will race till the crack of dawn. I love that. I think that's super cool. In the city that never sleeps, Las Vegas.
Sorry, this is a good ratings talk, but I have to cut it down because I just remembered reading about something this week. Are y'all
Yeah.
hearing what Vegas is doing? I mentioned this in our group me.
No.
And I
Wait,
think-
charging like
Formula
$1,500 for hearing the cars? Yeah. saw that.
1,500. So Liberty Media is charging the people on the strip along the racetrack with a view of the race who could see the race. They're charging them $1,500 per person times their max capacity. So if their max capacity, let's do some math. Let's do their max capacity. It's Vegas, so it's probably gonna be big. Let's say 500 times
Wait,
1,500. That's 7,500. That's $750,000 for that.
Wait,
Just-
so they're
just
charging
not-
the venue?
They're charging the venue that could see the race.
Okay, so $1,500 times their max capacity. It's not times their number of people per se, but they will pay $1,500. So they're charging the venues $1,500 per the capacity, and then the venue is going to sell it at $1,500 per person, right?
I mean, they're going to have to offer packages now. Yeah, that's what you're getting
Yeah,
at.
they got to offer packages. Yeah,
they were doing probably less. They were probably going to sell them for less before this happened. But like,
yeah, now it's price
imagine just
hiked.
Formula One's just boarding up your windows,
so
just so you can't watch the race because you didn't pay.
Uh,
Even over your road and in front of your restaurant and stuff too.
Here's what I'll
It's
say:
not
the
making that much money.
MGM Grand's max capacity is 17,000 guests.
I think it's different for the hotels on the strip. I'm pretty sure it is. I'm talking about like
Like
Well,
small,
the Grand's a hotel. They all have rooms.
Yeah, but like the smaller, like let's say you own
the restaurants and bars, like they
Like a
can't
restaurant
block
or a
every
bar.
they can't block every hotel window from the Bellagio
True.
because that's gonna be like one of the things. So I think it's like, and plus those venues are like making money on top of that. I mean, they're sponsors of F1 with that one. I mean, they're using their home as like the thing is like that. It's just the smaller
Yeah.
venues that are like not paying Formula One. They're probably, I mean, look at like MGM Grand, Bellagio, all this stuff along the strip. Like in terms of the casinos and the hotels, they're probably already paying stuff along that to use their name, all this stuff. So they're like, okay, you're good enough. But I'm talking like the small restaurants, all this stuff along the strip, pawn shops, you name it. I'm kidding with that one. But
Well, I mean, if you look at the strip, it's mostly, I believe if my Vegas geography is correct, it's mostly all the big casinos.
Yeah.
Which
no, I'm
means
talking about
they're
like
getting-
on all the track.
But
I'm talking about on all the tracks, not just the
along
people
the
on the
strip,
strip.
there's-
I'm talking
along
about
this, yeah. Okay.
I'm talking
yeah.
about like any point of the track. If you could see any of it, Formula One's gonna come board up your windows, shine lights directly at your building, or do something crazy
That's
so
ridiculous.
you can't see the race.
Let the people watch their racing. I remember hearing stories about people like jumping the fence to go see Silverstone, and I mean now it's almost like you are policing who can and can't watch it from outside of the venue, which is just mind blowing.
Yeah, y'all are correct. The back stretch is all casino because it's the actual strip from Planet Hollywood down to Treasure Island, and then it goes across, goes past the MSG Sphere, Jesus, past the Caesars
Oh, it
Forum,
passes the Sphere? Yes.
It also passes the Westin, which is just a regular hotel.
But it's a luxury hotel. The Westin is a luxury hotel.
It is a luxury hotel. But
it's like a
not,
4.5.
It's not like a Bally's or a Planet Hollywood or something like that.
No, it's not. It's not a Vegas casino, but it's a very nice hotel for the people who want to stay at a hotel and then go to the casinos. So that's going to get charged. Any of those businesses along that corner along the home straight, no can do, no view.
That's what I'm trying to find. I'm trying to find if there's more like just like the regular stuff that wouldn't be big time high roller area.
Yeah, there's a lot of regular businesses along there because it's like truly a street circuit. You know, like in Azerbaijan, it goes through all of these political and historic buildings and some apartments.
And then in Vegas, they're passing the fountain in Hollywood, Planet Hollywood.
They're driving in the fountain, and also they're gonna
imagine they did like a turn over the fountain, cut away.
Yeah,
from
like
the street.
like at the streets of St. Petersburg, the IndyCar race. They literally have the landscaping there as a natural barrier around this like super low speed corner. Like you can drive into the shrubbery at St. Pete for the IndyCar race, which is super cool.
That's crazy. But yeah, Formula One, that's kind of crazy. I mean,
this is a racket.
Liberty Media trying to get
the wind is surrounding it. All of these like big time hotels 1,050 per person of your max capacity. Gee, that is a racket.
Again, I don't think it's going to happen for the casinos and the hotels because, like, they're caring about people being close and not paying to see it as much.
Yeah.
It doesn't care if you're on the 50th floor of the Bellagio because you're already paying the Formula One weekend rate package to stay there. You can't see the race from inside the casino, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, don't plan a Vegas trip during November 18th if you are planning on it, unless you can fork out some serious dough.
The poker games will be good because you get a bunch of fish up there playing. So it'd be easier. It'd be an easier game. That's the time to go, Ben.
Sure.
It's time to go.
You go after your big dogs.
Yeah.
With with more money than sense.
Yep. Exactly.
Card shark Noah.
Noah's going to walk up to some high roller table with like $25 in chips, all in. He's like $100 from them. Let's go. And then he gets back in his car and drives back because he can't stay in Vegas.
No, then I got to pay the bus fees.
Ooh.
Can't spend the night, and I got just enough for bus fare.
Trains out there.
I'm sure bus fees aren't cheap the night that they have the entire Las Vegas Strip blocked off.
I mean, you can walk. You know, they're building Oakland Coliseum down there, whatever they're gonna call it.
Energy.
The Oakland Coliseum that's in Las Vegas.
So sad. I love the Oakland Stadium with the rats and all of that.
Can't believe they have just thrown away everything Al Davis built.
Are you talking about the Athletics? I thought you were talking about the Athletics.
We were talking about the Athletics, not the eight, we're not talking about the Raiders, Noah. The Raiders are already there.
They used to play there though. They used to play in the Oakland Coliseum because it was built for both teams. And then Al Davis left.
That's fair.
He said, "I'm going to go get more money in LA."
And the A's still play there.
Al Davis has been dead, I thought, for a while.
Yeah, he has. But
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
Unlike Michael Schumacher. Anyways, one thing I will say about the upcoming races, since they're not allowed to work on the cars, I feel like the grid's going to be relatively fixed from where it was at Hungary. I wouldn't say so much at Spa because there is no real testing, and a lot of those teams are very testing dependent, like McLaren. They have to get the setup dialed, and when they have less time to do it on a sprint weekend and it being rainy with no practice sessions, I think we can see a convincing McLaren coming back. I don't think they're going to get third in the championship necessarily, but I could see them making a very strong return. Oh, also, guys, I forgot. Alpine has fired Otmar Zafnauer. Dude didn't even stay to watch the end of the race today. In a follow-up to what we talked about earlier in the season with Laurent Rossi, with Laurent Rossi saying that heads will roll, Otmar was the first to fall off of the chopping block and roll around back to Canada.
So Zach Brown won that. So
won the team principal battle.
Shout out to Zach Brown. You got your job longer than Otmar. But yeah, it was a decent weekend for Alpine too. I mean, you had Ocon score points in the race, and then you had Gasly finish P3 in the sprint.
Yeah. Much needed for the team after some very, very crazy disruption. I can't even begin to understand why they fired him.
Bring back Binotto.
Yeah, that's what I was going to jump to there. There have been rumors linking Mattia Binotto. Big stretch there. Big stretch.
Yeah, my bad.
Linking Mattia Binotto to the French team. I think that would be absolutely insane. I don't even know if that's a good decision or not. I mean, you're just going from mediocre to mediocre there. Maybe they think he'll work.
But unlike Otmar, Binotto's got wins. Ferrari,
Otmar has wins.
He didn't win. Oh yeah, Ocon. Wait, was he still at Aston Martin?
Ocon, Perez in 2020.
I thought when did Albar come there? Because I can't remember from when I was.
He went to Alpine in 2021
Okay, yeah. Then so that
or
means
2022. 2022.
Okay, so that means you
So
didn't get
he
to see
was
any
there.
wins then.
Yeah, no, he was there when Checo won in 2020.
You said 2022 he came there.
To Alpine. Yeah, before that he was at Racing Point, and before
Oh
that,
yeah. Oh yeah, fair. Oh yeah.
yeah. So he
Scratch that.
was
But yeah.
he was there when Perez won.
But
I think he has a
unlike,
better pull to win ratio than Mattia Binotto.
but here's the thing about Bonato though. Bonato has led a team to the first place in the drivers and constructors championships. Now, if you stopped watching F1 last year after Australia, you'd be like, "Oh, Ferrari's going to win the world championship." However, that did not happen. But my point is, he knows how to handle being up top a little bit. I mean, they still finished second in the constructors, but still.
Nah, man, he
I
drowned
mean,
at the top.
but with those two guys, there's two experienced drivers who are gonna be there after this year. I don't think either of their contracts are up for negotiation. At least I know Gasly's isn't. So you want someone to just have that experience, and I get
They need a leader.
Bonato didn't do that well at Ferrari as many people had hoped, but still, I still think he'd be a good person to bring in because he's got the experience. I don't think Alpine's gonna poach any of the lower people from them, but I don't know who's these. I mean, I see them as like the fifth biggest constructor, maybe the sixth. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean they are backed by the largest car manufacturer in the world. It's just they're given like half the budget that Mercedes had when there
Mhm.
was no cost cap. So yeah, you could see them forking out some big bucks, or you could see them just kind of sitting behind and being like, "We'll wait." And I mean, honestly, if everything was ideal, and let's say you got like a Ross Brawn level guy in your team, and you still wanted to hire Bonato, he'd be a great guy as like a consultant or whatever Andrea Stella was doing before he was promoted. Like that kind of role, like, hey, here's what I've seen, do with it what you will, and not having the final say on the decision. I think that's Bonato's strength. And when he was promoted at Ferrari, what they saw is they saw an ability for him to move upward from that, and I don't think he ever really did. So I think he would be a great fit as like a secondary guy, but not a primary decision maker. No,
Fair,
cruel but fair.
cruel but fair. All right,
That's
we've been
just
going
cruel.
on for almost. Sorry, no, we were a little bit more cruel towards you. Sorry about that. It's just how we go sometimes. Red like Ferrari. Anyway, let's wrap this up. Last episode for at least the next week, two, maybe even three. But let's wrap it up for our summer shenanigans with our mid-season recap. What have we taken away? What's been your one big takeaway from this? Let's say besides the Red Bull dominance, Ben, let's start with you.
I'd say don't count anybody out. So far what
Except
I've
Logan
seen,
Sargent. He can't mathematically win.
no, he can't.
You can count out Logan Sargent.
It's physically impossible for him to win. But not
People have
just in
no
terms of
faith.
winning. Not just in terms of winning races, but like in terms of
Point deductions.
competitivity or competitivity. I don't know how you say that word. I could type it out, but in terms of competitiveness, any team at any point this season has been able to be competitive in a short spurt of time. Aston Martin, Mercedes, Ferrari. Really, the only two teams that have been Alfa Romeo and Oz and AlphaTauri. Those guys are miles behind. Even Williams at some points has been kind of all over the place. But you see like Williams finishing sixth, and then like just don't rule anybody out. I'd say there's not going to be a team that hasn't scored points this season. And that's just going to be how it is. The field is so close right now that anybody could come with a new package and just blow everyone out of the water except Red Bull.
Griggs, I'll go
Fair.
next.
Noah?
I'm going to keep it real short and sweet. I think at the beginning of this season, I'm not going to say that my thing is the Red Bull dominance, but we've seen with the Red Bull dominance all throughout the season. Everybody knows that. We've heard rumblings that viewership was dropping off. We just proved earlier in this podcast that's not the truth. With the rest of the schedule, Netherlands, Italy, Singapore, Japan, we're going to Las Vegas, we're going to Austin in Texas. The rest of this season could be an absolute banger. Just from racing standpoint, not by obviously we're going to get Max Verstappen winning every single race, but from the second on down, we will get an absolute banger in the rest of the season. I think it could be 10 times better than what we've got so far earlier in the 2023 schedule.
Mine, I'm gonna go with just the ability of Aston Martin to just hang on for as long as they can, because they started off second in the constructors. They're now down to third, and just the ability of them, even though they have not been the greatest these past couple races, just the way that even with Lance Stroll, Fernando Alonso's still pulling a lot of his weight at his age. I mean, after today, he's only 1 point ahead of Lewis Hamilton, so that's going to be interesting to see if he can hold on to it, because the top three have not changed at any point this season. It's been Verstappen, Perez, and Alonso all throughout. So I'm interested to see if what happens here, if Aston Martin comes back getting a little bit more greedy with how they treat races, even though they both got to Q3 this weekend, started 9th and 10th, but that's why I took away from it. All right. And let's do two more. Let's do your favorite race you've watched so far this year. Ben, you can get start.
Can I name 3?
Yeah, give us your order then.
Okay. My favorite race wasn't actually a race. It was the Spa Sprint race. I loved it. Every minute of it. It was just great. There's decent battles throughout. Saturday as a whole was just exciting. I was very glad that I woke up for that. 2. I don't know. I really liked Bahrain. And I can't say that normally, because Bahrain's such a track that, like, you normally fall asleep watching. Just because of its simplicity, and it's not very hard or challenging to drive. And 3rd, I'm going to say Spain. The changes in Spain have made it very, very fun to watch, and I've really liked the racing there. So those are my 3.
Noah, you don't have to do 3. You can just name 1.
This is a hard choice. This is a really hard choice. I'm looking over the season, and I'm just trying to pick one out right now. Griggs, you got to go, man. I don't know.
I'll go.
I'm too on the fence.
I got you. Along with the craziness of this day and everything leading up to it, I'm gonna go Australia. That was a insane race. It wasn't the greatest racing technically there, but we had 8 DNFs. One of the 2, I can't remember. Just the absolute insanity that was that race just made so much more interesting to watch, even though it was like midnight Central Standard Time. Just the craziness that day was for me. But yeah, I enjoyed Australia a lot, just because Verstappen won, of course, but still just the amount of just carnage, like Ben said. Just we had people going crazy. I mean, this Norris getting P6 when he was driving a terrible car. Piastri 4 points. Hulkenberg getting 6 points. Guan Yu Zhou finishing in the top 10. There's only 2 people who didn't score points in this race who finished the race. So that was just the craziness that happened there.
One of those being our boy Logan.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I looked back at it. Look at Zhou Guan Yu qualifies 17th, ends up finishing 9th in the race there. Looking back there, just all these, just the craziness that happened there. I mean, how many constructors have people not finished the race? 1, 2. So 2 constructors didn't have any people finish.
Wow.
So that's the craziness. That was that. Noah, you got one?
I'm going to use mine to highlight a race you 2 haven't talked about, and I'm going to go with Monaco this year. We had Ocon finishing on the podium on the 3rd step.
Bestie.
Hamilton got a fastest lap. We had double points from McLaren when absolutely nobody thought that would ever happen in the history of mankind. And
The
I'll be
Mercedes
honest,
upgrades worked.
Mercedes upgrades worked. I honestly just really like Monaco races, and this is the one I'm going to choose to highlight with my time here.
All right, last question. Do you guys think Red Bull wins the remaining races of this season?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I think they have a shot at winning every race in a season. A very good shot. I would not be surprised.
I'm gonna say no, because at some point they've not had a race yet where Max has had to retire. Max is not retired yet this race. He scored points in every single race. The uncertainty of Checo's qualifying performances has been in question recently, even though it's been better. I think that could come back to hurt him, especially if Max got a 5-place grid penalty today. And then Max gets another one if he has to change an engine or something like that, go back down to 15th. I mean, I think that could change some things, even though Max has won from pretty far back before. But still, I just think that someone's going to catch a break, and they're going to take advantage of that. Because what is it, 22 races since one got canceled this year? That's a lot of races to win.
Yeah.
Especially with Red Bull making upgrades, but minimal. But that is going to do it for us today. After I'm reading this group chat, we're both all in. That is going to do it for today's episode of Smooth Operators. If you missed any of today's show, check it out on your favorite podcast platform later. Hit that download button. Leave us a good review on the site if you feel so inclined. We do appreciate the feedback. Follow the Twitter at SMOP Podcast. Reminder, we're not going to be on the air next week or the week after. We're going to hope to be in the studio, coming back to you live on the Weagle Airways on August 18th, 1 p.m. time. We still got our same time, so hats off to that. Clap up for Noah, working that magic out in Cameron. But we're taking our own little summer break, so we'll see you back in Auburn. For Ben McClurk and Noah Phillips, I'm Grace Blankenberg. Thank you for tuning in to Smooth Operators on Weagle 91.1 FM. Have a great rest of your week, everyone. Have a great couple weeks of your weeks, and War Eagle.